Good morning. Hello everybody, welcome to Lazy Mini Painting. I have an issue today. My top-down camera doesn't seem to want to work. Don't ask me why. It was working perfectly fine on Monday. It was working perfectly fine last night. Now, no. My computer's just not. It's just telling me, no, you can't have it. So I'll try and open the camera setting now. And it's there. The camera's there. I can see it. It's recognizing my camera. Did I turn anything on last night that I might wish to change back or anything? Nope. Right, so I'm not entirely sure what's going to be happening with my camera. I'm going to try and add another source back in, see if I can get it running now that I'm like midway through. You know, when you're not supposed to be doing this kind of stuff. No, it's just not letting me have my top-down camera. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do it this way. We have Combat Patrol issue 46. And in today's issue we get Stormhost Silver, which is not being shown on the camera, which is nice. Which is a very, very weird silver compared to the bottle metal. We also get Night Questor Flesh, which is another form of brown. This one's slight pinky one. Slight pinky one. Now, I'm quite happy that I've got the brighter silver because mine had gone into a block. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use a Night Questor Flesh for. But in this magazine today it is Stormhost Silver, which we've just seen, Night Questor Flesh, which we've also just seen, and Only War. Well, that sounds like fun. So, highlighting. How to use highlighting techniques. Right. So, here, we should take a small layer brush and notice the tip of the brush and the side of the brush. If you can't tell the difference. So, you've got the tip of the brush and the side of the brush. If they get to be this arsey, then so do I for some reason. How to thin your paints. You may want to thin your paints so that it's easy to control. If so, place some of your paint on a palette and add a drop of clean water. Alternatively, use a wet palette. It does work as well. Gently mix it all through until it is the same consistency. Take care not to add too much water, otherwise you end up with a runny, gloopy mess that just goes on thin. Unless you're going for the glazing technique, in which case, add a bit more water, because you need it. How to load up your brush. You can choose to, if you choose to thin your paint, clean your brush and dry it on a paper towel, then dip the tip. Okay. The tip of the brush into your paint. Pull the brush outwards and away from the paint, making gentle twisting motions to help pull the bristles into a tight point. Like so. Your brush should now look like this, which is not helping. There we go. So at a very dodgy angle, you should have a white brush, and instead of being all clear like that, you should have paint up to about 2/3 of it. Is what they're saying. Okay. You then use said point and edge to highlight. So when to use the side? When you've got a nice triangle point and you want to run it right along the edge. So see along these edges here, like they've done with the Terminator backs and the corners. That's where they're going to be highlighting. Now the yellow lines are just to show you where to highlight. Don't highlight those bits yellow. That's just examples of where to highlight. As you see, they do come back in with a brush on this one, using the edge and just slowly run it down and they'll bring it back up the same bit there with the edge, and then down there, then across there again. Always using the edge, not the point. Do not press too hard, otherwise your brush will fan, and that is not good because it'll go thicker onto it. It'll go more round the point that you're trying to cut along. Example. Don't just grab a towel. Don't just grab the towel. We have models that we can highlight without just grabbing towel models. Like, I cleared a load of stuff off the other day. I don't know what's available at the moment. Okay, I'll get the wet palette on one. I know where I need to actually highlight. So, good morning, Francois. Good morning. I know I'm a bit early today, but I'm also a bit miffed because I want to be able to get my overhead camera fixed because it's not working. Well, it is working. It's just fucking Streamlabs isn't recognizing it at the moment. Everything else is just not Streamlabs. So I've loaded up my brush. Again, I've gone to about a halfway point rather than 2/3. And you find the bit that you want to highlight. In my case, it's going to be your little dreads down here. And then with the side of the brush, lightly run the edge over. When I say lightly run the edge over, that doesn't mean go looking for the man with the hat who plays guitar for U2 and get him. I mean the edge of your brush. You're running that over the edges. And just to do it again on something a little smaller. So if we take the axe head for this, and again, without pushing too much pressure on, because we don't want the brush to go splaying everywhere, just run it lightly along the edge. And then you should end up with a very thin line only along that little bit that you were trying to. So in my case, it's right along the axe tip and right along the top. So you only use a little bit of your brush. Don't use all of it. And make sure you wash your brush afterwards, especially if you're using the metallics. Put one palette back over there, move Angry around back a minute. And then when to use the tip. So in this case, it's telling you to use the tip on large domed areas. So bulging muscles, cloaks, things like that. Not nice, neat, sharp edges. So for the muscles for the Orc boys, they've kind of put it there in yellow to separate out 3 different muscle sections. Then they're going to use a little bit of light colour. So in this case, I think they've gone for white. And they've just come in about 0.5 millimetre, or just enough so that you're not going right to the edge. And they're just edging round. And then they'll paint in with the brighter colour afterwards. Same with the cloak. As they're coming over the edges, they're using... yeah, they're kind of using the edge of the brush but slightly harder, and then coming down rather than using the tip for catching the tips of cloaks and things. And there are sections where you do have to come over as well. It's not the easiest technique to use, but it is possible. So example, highlighting metallics. Metallic paint may need more thinning than regular paint. If you find that your paint is too thick, simply add plenty of water to it. Not always a good thing with metallics, because if you add too much water, then the metal and the pigment start separating. If you choose to thin your paint down, be aware that metallic paints get to the point where the metallic flakes separate from the paint. Very next thing it says, okay. Metallic paints can dry out quickly. If you're spending a lot of time highlighting your paint, just use little bits and work it through. And if your paint starts to dry, you can add more paint if you're using a palette or close and shake the pot if you're just using it straight from the pot. If you're just using it straight from the pot, it's going to be thick. So, how to highlight a face. Good morning, EB. Now, yeah, my camera's not working properly at the moment, so I'm having to do it like this. So, once you've painted your face in the flesh tone and give it a wash, come back in with the flesh tone that you've used. And you're going to want to catch areas like the roof of the bridge of the nose, bridge of the eyebrows, cheeks, lips, chin, tops of head. Most of that will be done back in the pallid witch flesh. But the darker areas go back into the eyes and into the mouth with Catachan flesh to make it much darker and give you that depth. Back in with pallid flesh just to get the eyes and the teeth, and then a bad and black to dot the pupils. I suggest you practice dotting the pupils. It is not easy. So for highlighting, because we've just been given two new colours, obviously with Stormhost Silver and Nightquester Flesh. So Stormhost Silver, they're going to ask you to do slight little bits of highlights on some of the... I don't know why I'm trying to hold up to that one, because it's that camera I've got to use, isn't it? So they're going to ask you to do slight highlights on some of the gold wing chest pieces. Not fully, because you're going to want that gold to still be shining through. Definitely on any silver areas, just making them a little bit brighter silver. So they're going to go over all the weapons, the vents for the backpacks. They're even going to go over some of the gold and brass and bronze sections just to give them that shine edge highlight, because they are metal after all, so they will come up white even if it's gold, they'll shine that much. And just a couple of little bits down the side of the sword. The little symbol on the side of the chaplain's bike, just catching a little couple of the spikes just to make sure it shines up nicely. And any of the silver sections that you've painted on these as well. And even though they've done the back of the bike and the engine's kind of rusty and dirty and looks like they're all caked in oil and stuff, they're still going through and just catching the inside of the vent covers. So any of the holes out of the vents, just one side or both if you want, just catch it so you can see wear and tear. As for the Quester Knight Flesh, it's mostly leather. So gun holsters, sheaths for daggers, straps for guns, book coverings. And you're thinking, where have you got book coverings? Book covering on the librarian, and well, depending on how you've done the book on the front of the chaplain as well. Pardon me. So once you've done all that, you should actually get quite a smexy looking Little Force, I must say. It is starting to look good. If you've followed their guides, you'll have a nice looking ultramarine little combat patrol going on. That is, of course, if you followed their guide. If you've not, you'll have something that looks like mine, and nowhere near that good at this moment in time, because I've not got around to doing it all. Yay. So highlighting your Elder. You are going to put Spirit Stones with Macragge Blue, as well as highlighting lenses. So any of the blue stones that you've done for the chests. I know you're struggling to see for this one, I am sorry. So any like light sections, any little the Spirit Stone sections on the chests are going to be blue. Stormhost Silver again through most gold sections. So any of the little nubbly bits that you've painted gold, thin line around the top of them, and again edge highlighting around edges of engines, jewellery, any gold trim. And there's a lot of it. And don't forget his spear. Cannot forget his spear. Jeez, if you forget his spear, no one's going to let you down for that. In this case, they do also go down the edge of the blades. So when you've got the Wraithguard and you've got two big swords, not only do they come down the edge of the sword as well. They've come down the ridge that splits down the side. So where the sword goes from being that and then chamfers to go into the point. At that point where it's got the line, they've highlighted that as well. They've used the tip, although I would have used the edge. Yeah, tomato. Each to your own, eh? His pouch, of course, is highlighted with Quest on Nightflesh. And if you have done them, as they said, you end up with a very nice Eldar force. Not Eldari. I don't like the name Eldari, they changed it too much. But everything nicely highlighted from the back of the engines, the tips of the spears, the edges of the sword. Oh, it was the Wraith Lord it's done the sword on. So on the Wraith Lord, halfway down the sword, there is a little bit of a line that they've also highlighted it, along with the very tip. The actual bit that's going to be coming. Nice. So you'll end up with some quite nice painted models. And that's just for highlighting with the 2 paints that they give us today. And a bit of Macragge Blue. Can't forget the Macragge Blue. So what else do we have in this magazine? We have Brutal but Cunning is the next section. To face the Orcs in battle is to face a furious tide of aggression. Great engines of war belch out foul vapours and fumes. The earth-shaking war cries are raised and machines of death clank unsteadily forward. Every measure of their effort and resources are dedicated to violence, destruction, and all-consuming brutality. Welcome to the Orcs. Orcs are feared for their brutality. Many foes have underestimated the sheer aggression of the Orcs, and few of them have lived very long afterwards. Given the slightest chance, and often no provocation, the Orc Horde will launch all of itself towards the enemy at once, screaming, bawling, and thrashing until the battle is over. Each Orc is motivated not by survival, but by getting a piece of the action. However, even the most brutal Orcs are not without their cunning. Sometimes a little bit of planning can give them the opportunity to be even more brutal. That's the type of proposition that seriously appeals to even the most enthusiastically fighty amongst their numbers. So they can be sneaky if it means they're gonna be more brutal. Aren't they lovely creatures? So what do we have here? We have a couple of ideas on units. So we have Eugen Stomper, Squiggly Beasts, and then bigger is better, which is more numbers than size. Squiggly Beasts, which is this one with the knob on a Squiggus? I think it's a Squiggosaur. Orcs tend to think of other living beings as either sources of food or entertainment. However, they have a curious affinity with some of the weirder and more dangerous beasts in the galaxy. They train these to use as deadly weapons or fearsome mounts. So yeah, Squigs, 2 legs, ball of meat, teeth. Let's stick a metal plate on his head and charge into battle. Fantastic idea. It is. Eugen Stompy, which is in this case they're showing us a mega armor. Nope. The Orcs are not without an inventive streak, but their creations are unusually put to the use of war and fighting. Well, usually. Their contraptions can often be described as being either bigger, shootier, stompier, or more bashy than the previous contraptions that they replaced. Yeah, not technical terms. Shooty, choppy, stompy. Straightforward. What do you want to do? I want to smashy smashy. There you go. Bigger is better. In Orc society, the authority wielded by an individual is based on their ability to enforce it. The bigger Orcs bully the smaller ones. The smaller ones bully the Gretchins. The Gretchins bully the tiny Snotlings. The Snotlings have been unable to find anyone smaller or more pathetic to bully. So Snotlings are at the bottom of the ladder. Ooh, I found out what Only War is. Only War is a mission. And it is as basic, as far as I can determine, a mission as you can possibly ask for. We do get some more enhancements. We get some more stratagems. And we get some agendas. And we'll learn about a couple of special rules. Alright, let's start with the Only War. So, the mission. The time has come to prove your worth as the greatest commander in the galaxy. All that stands between you and your ultimate glory is an opposing force bent upon your destruction. Funny how that works, isn't it? Destroy the enemy army and secure strategic sites littered across the battlefield while stopping your foe from doing likewise. Sounds simple. Sounds simple. Get rid of your enemy. So, section 1. Muster your armies. First players will need to muster armies based on the battle size they have selected, described on page 55 to 56. This mission is designed for incursion, strike force, and onslaught battle sizes. That's small, medium, so that's 1 board, 2 board, 4 boards. Easier way of putting it. Mission objectives. Capture and control is this mission objective. Starting from the second battle round, at the end of each player's command phase, the player whose turn it is scores 1 victory point for each objective marker they control to a maximum of 3 per turn. Details on how to control objectives can be found on page 58. Not of this section, but if you go through your folder, you'll be putting it away all nicely. That's where you can find it. Section 3. Creating the battlefield. Players now create the battlefield and set up terrain features using the guidelines on pages 49 through 52. The minimum size of your battlefield depends on the size you have selected, as shown in the table below. So if you've gone for an incursion or strike force, it's a 44 inches by 60 inch battlefield. If you've gone for an onslaught, the bigger one, it's 44 by 90. An extra 4. Players then alternate setting up objective markers on the battlefield, starting with whichever player wins a roll-off. Total number of 4 have been placed. Until a total number of 4 have been placed. Objective markers cannot be placed within 6 inches of any battlefield edge, or within 9 inches of any other objective marker. I'm going to be saying that in my sleep, the amount of times this magazine has asked me to read out. Determine attacker and defender. You roll off the winner as the attacker. You then declare your battle formations. In the order stated below, both players now secretly note down which of their leader units will start the battle attached. They must specify which leader is attached to which bodyguard unit. Which of their units will start in battle on a transport model, if you have any transport models. And which of their units are starting in strategic reserves or standard reserves. When both players have done so, they declare their selections to their opponent. So you do it all in secret right to the end, and you go 1, 2, 3, ta-da! And show each other. Strange, isn't it? It's just so your opponent can't make reactive decisions that are just dirty. So if he doesn't put that in deep strike, then I can put that I need down on the board. But if he puts them in deep strikes, then I can put them in reserves. It's to stop that type of thing. You've got to make your decision. If you made the wrong one, deal with it. So once you've gone through that bit and you've done the ta-da bit, you deploy your armies. Players then alternate deploying units, one at a time, starting with the attacker. Models must be set up wholly within the controlling player's deployment zone, continuing to set up until both players have finished setting up all their models. Once you've done your standard models, then you infiltrators, anything outside of the norm, until both players' abilities that allow them to have set up have deployed. They must roll off all of the units until they have been, and then alternating, starting with the winner. Determine who gets the first turn. Roll off again. Winner gets it. Resolve any battlefield rules, so scout movements, any pre-game abilities, anything like that. And then you start the battle. You start the battle with a command phase, so then you will get your command phase abilities, movement phase, shooting phase, charge phase, fight phase, end phase. Sounds quite easy, doesn't it? Then you will end the battle. The battle ends when all the models on one player's army have been destroyed, or the 5th battle round has ended. So only lasts for 5 battle rounds. 5 battle rounds, like all we get. That's all we get, people. 5 battle rounds. 5 battle rounds, that's all you've got. Once you've got to the end of battle round 5, or you've wiped your opponent out, at the end of it all, you will count up how many victory points you have. And whoever has the most victory points wins. If you have the same, then you draw. So here's the fun thing. Even if you were to get wiped out on turn 4, if you've scored enough victory points, you can still win. Even if they played out full turn 5 so you're not on the board and claimed every victory point they could, if you've got enough, you can still win. So next bit is Eldari Combat Patrol rules. So I'm going to read it with you, see. So when you play a game of Combat Patrol, you can make choices about special rules and abilities that will apply to your army during the game. You can choose between different enhancements that benefit your leader, secondary objectives that your army is striving to achieve, and stratagems for your army to use. Yep, that's right. You do get to choose all that. So enhancements for the Eldari. The path command is long, and each leader takes their own route, learning new abilities and becoming skilled in many disciplines along the way. Eldari leaders who have walked so far along their path will have learned much. Not all who take command in battle tread the path of the warrior. Those who tread the path of the seer also serve in times of war. They bring their foresight and their psychic abilities to the battlefield along with their wisdom. That'll be the Farseers instead of the Autarchs. Secondary objectives. Things to be doing in the meantime. Battles are often fought when armies converge on the same position, both needing to hold the same ground or to investigate an area's resources. Sometimes a force goes to war with its own unique aims. When the Eldari take to the battlefield, they bring the perspective of ages. That their people are so ancient and their plans so long term that their enemies can rarely fathom what motivates them. All too often their true intention lies behind a veil of mystery. Yeah, I just can't tell you what they're up to so you can get some help. No! They've got to do all cloak and dagger stuff, haven't they? They've got to be all cloaky and dagger shit. Because why? Because the space elves and the pompous little... Yes, I do have an Eldar army, by the way. Stratagems. Yeah. Stratagems are the ploys and tactics that are available to commanders on the battlefield in the desperate warfare of the 41st millennium. I'll try that word again. In the 41st millennium, there we go. Every available route to victory must be taken, and no possible advantage can be ignored. Although Eldari commanders can make use of the tactics and maneuvers that all combatants can use, they also leverage the unique speed and agility of their species. Yeah, tiny little fast, annoying little knife-eared little buggers. Okay, so enhancements. All this talking is making me thirsty. So the enhancements that we will get available for Farseers. So this is your Farseer that we got. It's the one with the cloak and big spear. The standard is Foresight. Default enhancement. Foresight is psychic. Once per turn you can target the bearer's unit with the fire overwatch stratagem for 0 CP. If the bearer's unit is within range of an objective marker, that you do control. Hits are scored on an unmodified hit roll of 4+ while resolving that stratagem. Otherwise, hits are scored on an unmodified roll of 5+ instead. Ooh, that's not good. Everyone else hits on 6s. See? Greasy elves. Can't fight like everyone else, gotta take advantage. If you don't go for that one, which is a free Overwatch, essentially that's what that one is, you can go for Eldritch Might, which is an optional enhancement instead of the default one. And this is each time the bearer makes a psychic attack, reroll a hit roll of 1, reroll a wound roll of 1, and reroll a damage roll of 1. So in the case of our Farseer, he has it's got to be with a psychic weapon, so it's got to be his Singing Spear or his Eldritch Storm. If you're using Eldritch Storm, you get D6 attacks. If any of those rolls to hit are 1s, which you need 3 pluses, so the only thing you don't want really is 2s. If you get 2s, that's the bad thing. But you get to reroll a 1. If you're rolling to wound and you get another 1, you get to reroll that. And it has D3 damage. So if you get a 1 on your damage roll, you get to reroll that as well. But it's only for the actual Farseer who's doing it. So one of them is, they're both got to up damage output for certain parts. So if you're being charged, the Overwatch stratagem will up your damage output, especially if you're holding an objective. Hitting on 4s and then just wounding as normal. It's a big difference compared to the other armies. The re-rolling hit rolls, wound rolls, and damage rolls can be useful. I'd be tempted with the Eldritch Might, which is the re-roll of hit, wound, and damage over the Foresight. I don't want to be getting close enough to be in close combat to have to use the Overwatch stratagem. That's the whole point of that one. But if you are one of those most aggressive players with ranged armies, then by all means go for the Overwatch one, because somebody's going to want to charge you. Especially the Orc player. The Orc player is going to want to charge everything in there. Good morning, D. They are not smexy elves. They are dirty knifers. Despite the fact that I've got an army of them. But they're still dirty knifers. Dwarves, hammer! Good morning. So where are we up to now? So we have the 2 enhancements. You can either free CP for your Overwatch and hit on 4s or 5s. Greasy knife is. Or re-rolling a hit, wound, and damage for a psychic attack for your Farseer. Right. Once you've chosen which one of them, you also have your secondary objectives. Victory points are key to winning games of combat patrol. In addition to the main objective of the mission, in this case, kill them all. You can also gain points through secondary objectives. You automatically get Ineffable Agenda as a secondary objective. If you wish, you can swap this for a greater destiny before the battle begins. So what does Ineffable Agenda do? At the start of your turn, you score 3 victory points if you control 1 or more objective markers that are not within your deployment zone and that you did not control at the start of the turn. So you've pushed up into midfield and taking an objective off your opponent. You've got 3 victory points for it. Or you're taking it from your opponent if nobody's got it and you can just get there, like they've done with the Wind Riders. They just shot them straight forward. Nobody got to the middle of the board yet. And they claim it. Uh, 5,000 points of fills. You got 5,000 points of knifers. Cool. I've got 10,000 points of genetically modified human. Let's go for it. I like my chances. And I'm not taking less than 10,000 points against that 5,000 points of knifers. Because they're sneaky. the sneaky. Yeah, I'm not going to be having much Votann either, to be quite honest. Only what I get with the Combat Patrol magazine. Unless my Secret Santa sends me something to do with Votann. But it might send me something to do with Genestealer Occults. Or just something in general that's fun to paint. I'll find that closer to Christmas. Anyway. So that's Ineffable Agenda. If you don't want to use that one, because it sounds pants. It doesn't actually, that sounds quite good. But if you think it sounds pants and you want to go for the other one, A Greater Destiny. True, you can paint more Dig. You can paint more with Eldar because they're not as big, are they? But then again, you can pretty much just spray paint Space Marines and they're done. Done. Splodge for eyes. Bit of trim. Sorry. So what does A Greater Destiny get these knives? Eldari, sorry. At the end of the battle, you score 10 victory points if one or more units from your army, excluding battle shot units, are wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. So wait a minute, over 4 battle rounds, because you can only score these from turn 2 onwards, so 4 battle rounds, so it's 3, 6, 9, 12. You could potentially score off Ineffable Agenda, providing you can take objectives off your opponent consistently enough. A Greater Destiny is just at the end of the battle. So you steam forward, you kick crap out of everyone, you claim a few objectives in the middle to get 1 or 2 victory points on the way through, but then you just make sure that your Wind Riders or somebody's in the battlefield zone at the end and they're not battle shots and your opponent's section, and you get 10 victory points for that. See, that seems quite... That seems easier to get if you're playing for it. So if you can skirt a unit round, just keep it out of the sight. Keep it out of the way. Taking pop shots, not being used... I mean, don't keep them there useless and not use them at all. But try and make sure that you get them against favourable targets. So you can keep them majority out of the way and out of danger. So then towards the last end you can, into your opponent's deployment zone, score them victory points for the 10 victory points and boom. How many stratagems did he give? He gave us 3 stratagems for the Eldar. So what are these stratagems? First one, whip fast reactions. When your opponent, so when to use it? Your opponent's shooting phase or fighting phase just after the enemy unit has selected a target. Okay, and who do you use it on? It's 1 Eldari infantry or mounted unit from your army that was selected as a target of 1 or more of the attacking models units attacks. They don't make this easy to read. Certainly not easy to read out loud. Fuck's sake. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Right. Okay, so basically saying you have so fast reactions that they can't hit you as easily. So if you've got a hit on 3s, you're now hitting on 4s, etc. So the 3 won't do it. If you roll the 3, take 1 off it, it comes a 2, that's a miss. For a standard Space Marine, not an Eldar for that matter. Yeah, it's a miss. Second stratagem. So that was 1 CP, by the way. For the whip fast reactions is 1 CP. Storm of... in fact, all 3 of them are 1 CP. Storm of Shots. When to use it? In your own shooting phase. Who can you target? Up to 2 Eldari mounted units from your army or 1 Eldari infantry unit. Oh! So if you have 2 units of Wind Riders like he's got here, you can actually target both of them. But if you've just got 1 big unit here of just infantry, guardians, Dark Reapers, I don't know, Fire Dragons, anything that just shoots, but it's infantry, they're not on a jetpack, then you can only select 1 of them. Which makes sense because you can have like 10-man units of infantry but 6-man units of jetpacks. So it does make a bit of sense that you can only choose one of them. Good morning, Ali. Good morning. The new view, because this camera's not friggin' recognising through Streamlabs. That's why I've got a new view. It's just being a dick. No, it's just not registering the USB camera at all. It's registering this, you know, the dash cam, but not the actual camera. Go figure. So once you've targeted your either 2 mounted units or 1 infantry unit, what does it actually do this time of shots? Well, until the end of the phase, each time a model in one of those units makes an attack, add one to the hit roll. So it's the opposite of whip fast reactions, but for you. So now you're hitting on 2s or 3s if you're a really bad shot for Eldar. So it makes you more reliable to actually hit. Doesn't make you more reliable to wound, just means you're going to get it on target more often. You will not proc any critical hits out of it though, so 5s do not become critical hits as natural 6s. It's only natural 6s or any anti Psyker 4+, you can activate a critical hit on a 4+, but that's the only way to change that. This doesn't change, it just adds 1 to the hit roll. And finally, with my voice sometimes working, please, we have Zephyr Swift. When do we use this one? We use it at the end of our shooting phase. And we can target up to 2 Eldari mounted units from your army that are not within engagement range, or 1 infantry that is not within engagement range. So they can't be locked in close combat. Don't think you're getting them out of close combat with this strategy. The effect is each one of those units that you've selected, so it's either 2 mounted or 1 infantry, not both, gets to make a normal move of up to 6 inches. Now, that's not too bad. So if you're close enough to get a 12-inch range shot off, you know it's like, right, okay, when I shoot this, I'm going to be 12 inches at least away from them. They're going to move 6 and be able to charge me. No, don't like that crap. Shoot them and then use this Zephyr Swift on them, and you get to move 6 inches away. And yeah, until the end of the turn, you are not eligible to declare a charge. But then again, you've just used a 6-inch reaction move to shit yourself and run away. I don't think you're going to be charging. The whole point of being able to run away is to not get into close combat. So that kind of makes sense there. Oh, we get Chaos ones as well now. What do we get for Chaos? We just get Dark Pact for the Chaos. We just get told what the Dark Pact is. That's fine. It's just a faction ability. That's all it is. Alright. So, beseeching the Chaos gods with fanatical fervour and profane. The profane champions of the heretic Astartes pray for diabolic boons, promising the vilest of offerings in return for their power. Each time with a unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight, it can make a Dark Pact. If it does, select one of the following abilities for that unit's weapons to gain until the end of the phase. Once the user has resolved its attacks after making a Dark Pact, you must make a leadership test. If it is failed, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Right. I was thinking that was a little bit too good there for a second. You get to choose between either lethal hits or sustained hits, both of which are fucking good on the right weapon. But you've got a chance, just like with Orcs used to, you've got a chance of killing a couple of your own models in the meantime when you're doing it as well. But you get to kill your own models after you resolve the attacks, which is a good thing. So let's see. The example they give here, so they give us an example of Dark Pact. in this example, the Dark Apostle and Dark Disciples have elected to make a Dark Path. They must choose between either lethal hits or sustained hits 1. Whichever they choose, that rule will apply to all their weapons until the end of the phase. If the player chooses to use it during the shooting phase, then whichever they choose will apply to its Dark Apostle's bolt pistol. If they choose it during the fight phase, then whichever they choose will apply to the Dark Apostle's Accursed Acrosius and the Dark Disciples' close combat weapons. After attacking, they must take a leadership test. If they fail, they suffer D3 mortal wounds, which means the two little apostles are going. Not the apostles, the disciples. They're tanking mortal wounds before you give it to the apostle. So, how do lethal hits work? If a lethem, I don't know what a lethem is, but if a weapon has lethal hits in its profile, any critical hits automatically inflict a wound without a wound roll being made. A critical hit is a hit roll of 6. You must actually roll a 6, so it's a natural 6. No plus ones to it, nothing like that. Just a natural straight out, boom, 6. And that is a critical hit. So that would equal 1 lethal hit. Same thing applies, so we're still rolling on hit rolls of 6 for the sustained hits, but when you get a critical hit with the sustained hits 1, you get to add another dice into your rolling to wound pile. So it's feasibly possible to end up with more shots than you started with sustained hits. So if you have 6 shots and you roll all 6s, and I'm aware I'm going 6, 6, 6 here, so calm yourselves. You will end up not with 6 shots, but with 12 that have hit. See where you can see what's in the right for the right weapons. Sustained hits are really good. Sometimes you'll want lethal hits. So if you're low weapon that strength but high volume, lethal hits will just drill through. Same thing with sustained hits. If you've got high volume, you've got more chance of getting 6s. You've got to get more shots through. But sustained hits can also be just as effective with a 1 shot. If you roll a 6 for that one shot becomes a 2 shots. And something like a las cannon, getting an extra shot off something, it can really swing a battle. But to do that with the chaos, you have to do a Dark Pact. And, well, that means you've got to take a leadership test at the end. And as they've shown you there, they've rolled for a leadership test. They've got a 2 and a 3. So leadership is a 6+. They failed. They take 2 mortal. They've rolled again. They've got what I would have said was 3 mortal wounds, but they've done it as 1 and 2 are 1, 3 and 4 are 2, 5 and 6 are 3. So they rolled a 3. They took 2 mortal wounds, which means the 2 little flunkies get bumped off. Because that's what they're there for. They're there to get bumped off. So that your main guy doesn't take the wounds straight away. Thank you, Ellie. Wow. Yes, I am doing Sparkles and Oak. The magical world of Sparkles and Oak at 9:30 tomorrow, if I can get this camera working. I won't be if it's not, because you can't see what canal I'm painting. But these quick issues are something different. That's it. That's what we've done for today. We've got the faction rules for some Eldar, some faction rules for some Chaos, some stratagems for the Eldar, and how to use the side of your brush. Yeah, pretty much the first half of this entire magazine was how to use. Yeah, that entire first half was just how to use the side of your brush. So for a moment, I'm gonna see if I can figure out what's going on with this. First of all, let's tighten that back up so it's there, and then flop the screen over so I can actually see. Right, so that's not working there. Let me unplug it, and it goes bye bye. And that's just a standard USB. It's just catching the light. In case you're wondering, where's that bright thing gonna blow up in Laz's face? It's not gonna blow up in my face, I hope. It's just a bright light. Let's turn that around so I can see it. Plug the USB into the USB section. Yes, that is a good point. If technical issues are still prevailing me tomorrow night, please feel free to check out any other of my past streams, including the Sparkles and Oak streams. Right, let's see if I can. No! No! I am having quite a few technical difficulties right now. Settings, video, output, stream, nope, nope. I don't have a virtual camera. What is going on with my computer? So you can click there and I move that. See, I've got nothing behind me. I'm supposed to have a desk cam. And it'll put OBS virtual camera on, that's what it does. And it'll put USB me. It's this camera, a generic. Doobie 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 doo. Which is not right. That's not how it's supposed to be working. I know this. Now, is this because I've got too much stuff within an area? He's saying I've got 2 desk cams for some reason. So let's delete that one. We don't have that desk cam anymore. We have that desk cam. And that's still not doing jack diddly shit for me. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening here. It's alright, Ali. It's not your fault. It's my technical issues for today. It was working yesterday. It's just not working today. Now, I did disconnect it and tried taking photographs with it and doing things like that. You know, what your camera's supposed to be for, and I don't know if it didn't like that or something, so I'll try wiping the memory card and then coming back and hopefully I'll sort it ready for tomorrow night. But yes, that is today's issue of Combat Patrol, all the way up to issue number 46, which was 2 paints and a lot of reading. But good reading, telling us rules, giving us faction abilities, and letting us know about how absolutely mental the Orcs are. They are the nuts. They're great. Definitely one of my favourite factions. I will agree with D. These Xenos races have some of the best lore in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Even if you are a Nightfare player, or whether you're a stunty player, or whether you're a cow person player that can't do melee, or you're one of the Orcs. I like Orcs. Yeah, they definitely have the better lore. It could even be the metal soulless creatures and get better lore than some of the bloody Space Marines. But yeah, that's me going off on a tangent. Thank you very much, everybody who's come to see me today. So if you have, please leave a like. if you want to come and subscribe to hopefully see me mess up and get less in the future, then please hit that subscribe notification bell so you know when I'm going live. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow night. Thank you very much again, and